Hello, everybody. My name is Hutch Johnson, and I am joining you to talk about our wild weather that we are going to be having in the next 24 hours. Right now, we have Monday, and temperatures across the nation are soaring in the Central Plains, but there is a huge burp of cold air that's blasting out of Canada. And as that happens, I'm expecting cold air to mingle with the Canadian cold air to mingle with this humid air in the Gulf Coast states. And that's going to be pulled all the way up to the Great Lakes. And this area you see circled could have severe storms followed up by some very wintry conditions with a lot of wind as well. So thank you for joining me. I always invite everyone to join in with the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you. Hi, Deborah. Good to have you on board. Thanks for watching. Now, this is going to bring some wintry weather to the northern plains as it works its way through Tuesday. And by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon and evening, it will work its way into the Great Lakes. We're going to focus on that. We're going to talk about the timing track of the severe weather potential. We're going to talk also about the types of severe weather you might experience. And just when you're bracing for that type of severe summer-like weather with thunderstorms, hail, tornadoes, lightning, flash flooding, whack on the backside with this, the blue stuff, that's snow. All right, Deborah, good. I'm glad that you're joining from Fargo. Close the door. We don't want this stuff, she says. Yeah, it's been nice in the northern plains. Record-setting highs expected today, by the way, in Fargo and in this area of near 60 degrees. And that's some very, very nice warm. Cheryl, good to have you on. And Teresa from Crookston, it's awesome to have you on board as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get started with a look at what we have going on with regards to this system. We're going to take a look at the Storm Prediction Center and the areas they have highlighted with the different risks that we have potentially here in our area. Let's start with a look at the area of concern. This is for Tuesday. Now tonight we could have some strong thunderstorms in this area, but they'll be marginally severe. And we'll show you that in the model when we get to it. But for Tuesday, we're talking in the afternoon and evening hours. Where you see the yellow area here, that's our general area of a level 2 risk of a 5-level scale. So it doesn't mean we're going to have particularly widespread everywhere thunderstorms, but the ones that do form could quickly become severe. Now, there are all severe weather threats that are going to be possible with this system. Notice the communities that are involved here. Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're talking about the Chicago area straight down to St. Louis. Those are the highlight areas as we go through Indianapolis and on into Detroit as well. The area of light green that you see there is a risk that's called marginal. That means storms that form in those areas could possibly be severe, but the risk is much, much lower. Now, there are different types of risks that are involved here, and let's go over that real quickly as well. And we're going to start with a look at that general risk. That's what this is. So this means the areas in yellow, be prepared for a general risk of thunderstorms. Now, check this out after we get this defined, and you can see the areas of concern here. Let's show you the risk for, this is where the tornado risk is the greatest. So in the areas of green, that's a 2% risk of tornadoes. But in northern Indiana and northern and eastern parts of Illinois, not far from Chicago, there is a 5% chance of seeing a tornado within anywhere about 30 miles of any point on this map. That's pretty huge. When you consider our daily average chance of seeing a tornado is less than 0.5%, having a 5% chance is very intense. And On says, looking forward to some snow. There's a lot of folks who have not seen a lot of winter out there. Thanks for your comment, On. It's good to have you on board. Thank you so very much. And you know what? I am enjoying the milder winter after 3 winter whacks the last 3 winters here in the northern plains. So this is the risk for tornadoes. So a reasonable chance of tornadoes in the green area, but a better chance of tornadoes in the brown area that you see circled inside that circle of 5%. And again, the 5% means 5% chance of seeing a tornado within 30 miles of any point in that circle. Now, the greatest risk for severe weather is going to come from hail. Check this out. There is what we call a hatched area of concern. This is a significant risk for hail. It's greater than 60% in some of these areas here where you see the hatched. And the hail could be very large and damaging. So this area that does include Chicago, all of northern Indiana, and into parts of western Ohio, southern Michigan, not far from you in Toledo, not far from you in Detroit, hail will be the primary risk. The yellow circle is 15%. That's 15% chance within 30 miles of any spot on that area of seeing some significant hail. And we're not talking, well, 3/4 inch hail here, folks, over 1 inch to 2 inches in diameter. And it could be very wind-driven hail as well. There's going to be a lot of wind with this storm. We're going to go over all of that right now. And we're going to start with a look at the timing of this system. When do you need to be prepared? First and foremost, I want to let you know that the data that we're showing you here is from the National Weather Service offices. You just want to make sure if you're in these areas that you have access to the weather information. If the skies get dark in the northern plains as we go through your Tuesday, you'll want to make sure you have access to readily available information with regards to the forecast. Now, speaking of that forecast, we're going to go over a model to get the track and timing down right now, and let's go right to that. Here we are back at the map here. I'm going to leave on this yellow hatched area. By the way, this storm system's coming out of the northern plains where we have winter storm watches in northern Minnesota, Fargo, Moorhead, Grand Forks, North Dakota. We're going to see a lot of snow potential, but wind at the same time. And there is a concern for some all-out blizzard-like conditions in portions of the Red River Valley of the North. Winter storm warnings out in the mountains of Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado from this same storm system. And this is going to exit into the plains and bring us our whack of wintry weather after the severe thunderstorm threat. So we'll zoom in on this area, and we're going to go ahead and load up a look at, pardon me here while I get up, a look at the future radar here. So let's go ahead and load that up. Pardon me while I get the right information switched here. It just takes a second. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm getting a seasonal radar on here so you can take a look at the change that's coming through. And I'll just let this play through. We're going to go through tonight with just an isolated chance of a couple of strong storms from Indianapolis through Cleveland. Then here's the main event, followed up by that thing, that blotch of ice and snow coming through late Tuesday and into Wednesday. So tonight, thunderstorms could be strong, maybe. Tomorrow, a good chance of strong tornadic storm potential, but an even better chance of some hail with these storms. Let me pause this so we can go back through and kind of rock through the timeline so you can pay attention on that top line with me and look at when this system makes its way through your area. So tonight's thunderstorms fire near Indianapolis and Fort Wayne, Indiana, head towards Cleveland and Detroit, and there will be a chance of some hail and some wind with those storms, but the tornado risk is low, and even the risk of large hail of 1 inch or more is not that good. Here's the main event. You get storms firing. In the initial onset of the storms, you're going to see the best chance of those tornadoes. So this is 6 to 8 p.m., right from Chicago straight down through St. Louis, all the way up to Lansing. You see this line of storms here, Akron, Ohio, up toward Cleveland? This is the warm front. And along warm fronts, I got to tell you, we can get some extra spin. But right here, this area, see this? This is the cold front. That's that cold air that's causing the snow that's going to be making its way, rocking through parts of Minnesota and Iowa. That cold front, along that and ahead of that, could bring some strong storms, but it's where the warm front and cold front meet here. We call that the triple point, and that area will have some enhanced spin. It's just native to these kind of storms to get that rotation in the atmosphere, not just the spin at the surface, but the spin throughout the atmosphere. The change of wind direction with height is what I'm talking about, and I'll show you more on that in just a second. But for now, take a gander at this as you see the storms working their way through places like Indianapolis, Toledo, Detroit, Lansing, Michigan, as we go through the time frame of, well, before 10 o'clock at night Central Time, and Eastern Time, that would be about 11 o'clock at night. Then as we head towards midnight Eastern, Cleveland, down towards Indianapolis, we'll be seeing the chance of those storms moving through. And here, as you note, they will be exiting the area of concern for the severe risk and going into the marginal risk as the intensity of the storm exits. You head to bed and you say, wow, what a wild day of weather. And then you go to sleep. And when you wake up, look at the nonsense that's awaiting you in Chicago, all the way up towards Muskegon and Kalamazoo, heading into Lansing. Pink as ice, blue as snow. So we have timing of this. After about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, storms will fire on the western edge of this line, not far from Springfield and St. Louis, west of Chicago. And those storms will increase and head east as we go through the evening hours. By the time we get to around 1 or 2 in the morning, it becomes snow and a gusty north wind takes hold. That's a look at the timing and the weather changes for your area. Now let's take a look at a fun thing. This is called atmospheric spin. Let's see if I can put this up for you. We're going to start with a look at that. Now, spin in the atmosphere is something that's kind of interesting. And when we take a look at that spin in the atmosphere, it's a calculation of how much turning there is in that column of air above you. So it can happen in a lot of different ways to create that spin. But what we're going to look at is, well, we'll go ahead and look at what's called the tornado parameter. And what you're going to look at on this map as I go ahead and put it in motion is the storms that come through tonight first. Not too much spin in the atmosphere. You're going to see things light up. Boom. Do you see that right there? Okay, let's stop that and go rock that back and show you when the spin is at a peak and where. Here we go. And this is that triple point we were just showing you, right? Right here near Chicago. Quite a bit of spin as we go out towards Fort Wayne, Indiana, Lafayette, as well. And if we're talking Valparaiso, we're talking about Gary, all the way out towards, well, South Bend even. Now, these areas will have a chance for seeing the spin in the storms, but there's also the lift in the storm. And let me show you that next. So the lift in the storm, think of it this way. If you have a hot air balloon and it just has a little bit of hot air in it, it'll slowly rise up through the atmosphere. But if you have that hot air balloon filled with really hot air, it wants to rise and take off fast. And when we get fast updrafts like that, that can support big hail. Remember, the number one risk from our storms tomorrow will be that big hail. And let's take a look at where that updraft strength could be the greatest. We're going to look at something called convective atmospheric potential energy. The more potential energy we have, the more lift there is in the atmosphere. Now, the colors you're seeing here showing up as they slide through, these are going to be tonight's thunderstorms. The green levels showing there's some lift in the atmosphere, but it's marginal, and the likelihood of severe not that great. Now, these things start lighting up as we go into the afternoon tomorrow, and shazam! Take a look at this. Now, as we go ahead and rock back and forth, this is going to be heading into the midnight hour as we go into your Tuesday. And here we go. There the storms form. Look at the lift there. So as we go into places like Lafayette, Chicago, same areas as we have that risk for storms. You have spin in the atmosphere and you have lift, then the risk for tornadoes is a little greater in the same area Hutch was showing you moments ago. And that extends out toward Toledo. But also, because of that lift, hail will be a big problem with these storms as well. And they could exceed 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter with these storms. Now, the lifted amount of energy that you're looking at here, the numbers are not so important, but I like to highlight the locations. But we are talking about in excess, for those of you that monitor this kind of stuff, 2,000. 2,000 is the value of these. So that's a lot of convective atmospheric potential energy. Now, a couple of other things to look now as we follow it up by some storm. Let's check out this surface and spin, and I want to show you a really cool feature that we do look at as meteorologists. And I'll try to put this up the best I can for you to see this. This is a product from the Storm Prediction Center that's showing us forecast wind direction as we go through. And let me center this just a little better for you so you can see the area of concern. Here's the Great Lakes, here's Ohio, here's Minnesota, and right here is the area we're concerned about. Now, this is what you're looking at here is the upper level winds as we go through time. And as I put this into time, you're going to see these very strong winds right here moving out of the Rocky Mountains of the southern United States and making its way northward. Okay, this amount of wind is increasing, and it's coming from the southwest. So the winds in the mid-levels of the atmosphere get strong, and they will be coming out of the southwest. Keep that in mind. Now, let's take a look at that and compare it to what's going on the ground. This is a look at the surface winds. Now, as this storm dives out of Minnesota and pushes its way into the northern plains, here you go. Now, we have winds coming out of the south. When you have winds at the ground coming out of the south and winds up aloft coming out of the south, that's no big deal. And the timestamp you're looking at here on this is going to be, this will be about 8, 9 in the morning. Okay, so we have all southerly winds throughout the depth of the atmosphere. Not a lot of spin, but boy, as that storm works its way through, at the low pressure center closes off over Michigan right here. Where it closes off, we're going to get a north wind. So as we have changing winds at the surface compared to what's happening up above, then we have that spin in the atmosphere. That creates a rolling tube of air, and that rolling tube of air can get stretched right into the vertical. So I want to point this out to you. At the ground, we're going to have winds coming straight out of the north, but up above, they'll be coming more out of the southwest. That is what we call a change in wind direction with height, and that is something meteorologists look for an increased chance with thunderstorm development of areas that could be concerned about tornadoes. And don't forget, that's all followed up by the fun and excitement of a good old-fashioned winter storm. The best chance of the wintry impacts will be farther north in these areas. We're talking about Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, and all the way up into northern parts of Ohio as well as we head into Well, Wednesday. So wild weather continues across the valley. A little bit more about me. My name is Hutch Johnson. I'm a meteorologist that has been working on the air for the better part of 30 years. I have 20 years of experience teaching meteorology at the college level, as well as a little bit of experience in the old research field as well. I appreciate your likes, your follows, and your comments, and I hope to see you again real soon. Thanks for checking in. Make sure you like and comment on the